Hey guys, today I'm going to be demonstrating how to make homemade watercolor using things out of your kitchen. We're going to be using Q-tips to do the demonstration to show you how to apply the watercolor to paper. You're going to be using your packet to do this, so if you happen to have a scrap piece of paper or a paper towel, I would highly recommend whatever you choose to use that you test it the way that I'm going to be testing these today. Some of them may work, some of them may not. It's going to be kind of like a science experiment to see what works and what doesn't. I have 20 different things right here that we're going to be going through. You have a list up on the board. We're going to be using 5 colors of Skittle. I don't have Kool-Aid, but I do have Gatorade and pink lemonade. Kool-Aid powder is another option. You have coffee. If you have instant coffee, the grounds will dissolve. If you have regular coffee, you can brew a small cup of it. Or you can put the grounds in cold water and just take a paper towel to sift out the grounds from the coffee. You have options of black tea and green tea. They create very different colors. You have food coloring as an option if you have food coloring. You also have spices such as cinnamon, ground clove, chili powder, nutmeg, thyme, turmeric, and paprika. Those are really good for making different colors. Some make red tones, yellow, orange. Some of them kind of have a brown tone. So we're going to experiment to see which ones work the best, and then whatever you have on hand out of these, if you have others that you think you want to experiment with, that's totally fine. We're going to see how each of these works, and then I'll let you know which ones have the best results so that y'all will have a little less experimenting you would have to do when you get ready to do your project. So let's start. We're going to start off using purple Skittles. I've let the Skittles sit in a cup of water so that the color on the outside of the Skittles dissolves. They've been sitting for approximately an hour. The water looks pastel, so let's see what it does on paper. So the first one for the Skittles doesn't have a whole lot of color to it. This one may actually work better if you wait overnight so that more of the Skittles has time to dissolve. So we're going to test each one to see if we get any type of result from any of them. Alright, so right now yellow is having the same thing. The pink on the Q-tip looks like it actually has, or the red one looks like it has a pink hue to it. Almost looks like pink lemonade. So that one has a slight bit of color to it, and depending on the paper type you're using, if your paper is more absorbent, it may actually take more of the color. We're going on to orange Skittles. I'm stirring each one just to make sure I get the best color possible. And final Skittles color is green. So I'm sure you can see, you don't really see much of a color difference on there. I'll be posting a picture of this completed once I actually get all of them on there. So the next one we're going to do is chili powder. Some of the spices may sink down to the bottom, so to really get a feel for the color, I would stir it. You can even, it kind of makes a paste in the bottom, so you can even get a little bit of the spice on there so that it gives it a little bit of a texture. Alright, so that one has a little bit of a light brown tone to it. We're going to go on to ground cloves and see what that one looks like. If the water is not real cloudy, it's not really going to show much color. Alright, so that one kind of has a little more of a yellowish tone to it. This one is ground turmeric. It will probably have a little bit of a yellow or an orange tint to it. one's nice. That one would, this one right here would be really good for like a sunset. We're going to be doing a landscape, so be looking at these from the demonstration when you get ready to get started to see how you could use different colors to make a nice red or orange or yellow sunset. Alright, so our next one is ground cinnamon. Always make sure that you use the ground versions of different spices. If you try to use something that is labeled like leaf, it's not really going to do anything because it won't pull the color. Alright, so this has a very pale brown tone to it. The next one is ground thyme. In the cup, this one has kind of a brownish green color to it, so we're going to see what it does up here on our paper. Alright, so thyme doesn't actually put a ton of color on it. If you were to let this dry and you layer it several times, it's going to give a green tint, so a lot of these are going to require layering when you work with them. And just make sure as you're layering that you're letting each layer dry. Alright, so our next one is paprika. If you are into science, this one is actually kind of a fun experiment. Alright, so paprika gives a nice kind of reddish orange tone to it. They're all very light, but it actually does work. Alright. Alright, so this one here is ground nutmeg. I would imagine this one is going to be a very pale kind of tan color. Alright, so that one actually doesn't really show much, so nutmeg may not be one of the best choices. Alright, so for this next one, we're going to be using yellow food coloring. So this is kind of the same concept of when you dye an Easter egg. Alright, so that actually does give that nice pastel color. If you want to use more food coloring, use less water. If you want the color to be darker, I have, as you can see, about half a cup of water. I used about 4 or 5 drops of food coloring, but if you want the color to be darker, use roughly about half that amount with the same number of drops. Alright, so the next one is green food coloring. It's got a nice dark deep green color. Alright, so that one you can actually see the green on it. Alright, our next one is blue food coloring, and like I said, always stir when you're doing this to make sure the color is fully mixed in. Our next one is going to be coffee. Alright, I've strained the coffee grounds out so that it's nothing real gritty or pasty from the coffee grounds. And it on the Q-tip, it looks kind of like a brownish orange color. Alright, so that one actually does do kind of a brownish orange shade to it. This one would be really good for layering if you wanted to do just a monochromatic, which is a one color landscape. Coffee or the food colorings so far would give you your best color options. We have 4 options to go, so our next one is black tea. I still have the tea bag steeping in the cup. It has kind of a red tint to it. I would have expected black tea to actually be darker, but it kind of has a reddish orange tint to it. Alright, So that one is another good one. It starts off as a very light tone, and then it's going to continue to get darker. And I will show y'all these in a second when I get the last one done. This is green tea, so I'm just stirring it to make sure the color is distributed evenly. This one is a light green color. Alright, so for that one, it really doesn't show up very much. The next is red Gatorade. So if the red works, you can imagine that pretty much any color of Gatorade would work for the same process. Alright, so the red actually does do well. It gives a very pale pink shade, so this would be another good one for the layering. And our final color is going to be pink lemonade. You could use regular lemonade. If the pink works, so would the yellow regular lemonade as well. So alright, so the pink doesn't really show up, so now I'm going to take it down and bring it closer so that y'all can actually see what happened with each one. So you can see a little bit of residue on some of them. You can't really get a true feel for the colors yet, but you can kind of see a little bit of color on several of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer them once it dries. I'll go back and I'll layer these and have like a light, a medium, and a dark. And that way y'all can see which ones will actually be usable for your projects. And that way you can check and see if you have those specific ones in your kitchen and your pantry, wherever you need to find them from. If for whatever reason y'all don't have any of these specific ones, if you have something that you want to experiment with, in the project folder on Google Classroom, just make a note in the private comments as to which one of the spices or whatever you used. Make sure you let me know which one you were using. Alright, so for this specific project, we're going to be doing a very simple landscape. I will be posting photos on Google Classroom and Remind to show y'all different variations using either multiple colors, using different medias that I demonstrated here. And I will also have some that are monochromatic, which use just one. So it shows you how to layer light, medium, and dark shades of the color. Just remember, when you do this, if you touch two wet colors together, it's going to make it a different color. So if you don't want the colors to change, if you're doing either the values of the monochromatic or actual multiple colors, make sure you're letting layers dry. So this one may take a couple of days or the course of a full day where you work on it for a little bit at a time. If y'all have any questions about it, make sure you let me know. Alright, in the next few pictures I'm going to show y'all what the difference is between printer paper and something similar to cardstock when you're doing this watercolor painting. I have a photo that's going to show you the exact color combo with labels to show you which items I used. I did a color sunset with a little bit of land and trees. I did the trees last in both of them once the main painting had dried, so just be mindful if you're going to do landscape features like trees that you wait until the initial painting dries. And remember, you can do monochromatic, which means layering one color to make different tones of that color.